19 levels is nothing when you breed gods. This game is a work of art. The world is beautiful, the sprites are beautiful, the soundtrack is beautiful. I cannot stress this enough. I personally got my money's worth out of this game and enjoyed it greatly. But I know once I get to explaining the game and its flaws, it's not going to sound like I enjoyed it, or like there's too much the player has to do to make this game truly shine. First off, let me tell you what this game really is, or what it isn't. Monster Crown Sin Eater isn't Pokemon. Yeah, there's a lot of surface similarities, but if you approach it like most people approach Pokemon, it'll feel lackluster. Monster Crown doesn't hold your hand. It doesn't show you the way. It doesn't explain itself to justify its mechanics. The systems in the game simply exist, and it's up to you to interact with them. The game sticks to its Game Boy Color era Pokemon influences though. Beautiful sprite work and forcing you to be responsible for your own saves just like it's 1996 all over again. This didn't bother me because I learned that lesson from Pokemon Red, but some others dislike that design choice. Probably because when you lose, you don't white out, you reload at the last save you made. Manual saves do allow you to save scum though if you wish. There's also 31 separate save files, allowing you to have multiple playthroughs going at once, possibly making sure you make different decisions in each. The world is much darker than Pokemon. People and monsters die. You're forced to make decisions that'll contribute to these characters dying and the ending of the game. This isn't just some kid trying to be the very best. The story starts off with you, a young farmer named Acer, trying to save your brother from his impending execution. I won't go into it anymore as to not spoil it, but it's your typical tale of revenge from then on. I will say there are decisions that affect the end of the game because there are multiple endings. Now, I'm not going to do this in my normal format of first the good, then the bad, because, well, with this game, I can't. Its flaws are features, its features are traps, they fight themselves at every turn, and at the same time, it beckons you to push deeper and deeper. I am going to start off with what I believe is the most important system in the entire game, breeding and fusion. This is a big part of what I mean by don't think this game is like Pokemon. In Pokemon, breeding is a simple side activity you don't even have to interact with. In this game, it's basically necessary. You see, each monster has a pool of moves it learns when leveling up, but this pool is severely limited. Some monsters only learn 5 or so moves total, some don't learn any from leveling up. This is intentional. It pushes you to engage with the breeding and the fusion. In this system, breeding and fusion are the same and different at the same time. Breeding keeps both parent monsters and produces an egg that you hatch. Fusion eats up both parent monsters and averages their level to give you a new already leveled up monster. Other than that, they're basically the same. However, with this system, you get more moves by getting moves from the parents. The parents give their child all of their currently active moves, thus vastly increasing the move pool for any given monster. Breeding and fusion is also a way to increase base stats, passing on the ones that are good and leaving the ones that are bad, thus leading to the creation of the strongest possible monster in the game. I bet you're thinking, great, that means you can make whatever monster you want with the moves you want and the stats you want. And you'd be right, but that cuts both ways, because while you can make any monster exactly what you want, it cheapens strong monsters. Because at the end of the day, you end up breeding 8 of essentially the same monster. Sure, it's a different species, so it looks a little bit different, but the stats and moves will usually be the same. Or at least the stats will and the moves will be similar. This means that after breeding for some time, monster species no longer matter. It's just a skin you're slapping on with the same stats and whatever move pool you like. The system is so intricate and cool, but if you engage with it too much, it invalidates a lot of the monsters you find, and with the monsters having max stats, it destroys the difficulty of the game until you're at the end or fighting very, very big story bosses. I mean, for a while, I was punching up like 20 or so levels because the monsters I made were, well, you saw in the beginning. Monsters. Interacting with this system to gain power invalidates any difficulty the game might have had, and ignoring it leaves a massive mechanic that changes how the game plays and how much content there is on the table. This kind of leads me to my next point, difficulty. While the game has 3 difficulty settings, I played on the normal mode. They don't seem to provide significant challenge. It's extremely easy to level up and bowl through content. Even if you don't over level and you just breed strong monsters, the content becomes trivialized. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Open world monster tamers need level scaling. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet had the same problem. They either need level caps that are enforced or level scaling to keep things interesting. I've heard that max difficulty, while harder, still has the same problem. although I haven't played it myself. Post-launch, the developers added EXP share because people had been complaining about having to level monsters they breed. I never ran into this issue and usually found it too easy to level, so I can't really comment on this change, whether it was good or not. What it does tell you, though, is that the devs are listening and clearly invested in making their game something people want to play. Another issue I've experienced is that the game's economy is unbalanced. If you explore at all, you will always have enough of everything. I have never needed to purchase anything from the store, and gold is used simply for breeding, and that's it. This comes from the fact that all chests seem to have the same loot pool, subbing out specific evolution items for their counterparts depending on where you find the chests. Sure, the game warns you when breeding and fusing that using the gene selector causes breeding or fusing to cost more money, but even after the massive amount of breeding I've done, this has never become a problem. It seems like more of a theoretical threat than an actual trade-off, and because of this, money ends up having no value. And same with some of the more rare items in the game. And this does something that greatly hurts the game. After a certain point, there's no reason to explore. Quest rewards are the same as chest rewards, save for a few key story quests that give you traversal methods or something else. All of the chest rewards are the same, so venturing into a dungeon to get them is simply more work than it's worth. And while you might say, well, the dungeons have boss monsters you can catch, it doesn't feel like it matters. Most of the boss monsters have mediocre stats compared to anything you can breed, making capturing them only important if you just really want their sprite. And since their stats aren't that high, they aren't even a fun fight. I found myself choosing my weakest moves so that I don't kill them just to capture them. In a game where one of the greatest strengths is its beautifully constructed world, this is a huge problem. I will say, the monsters in the overworld is a nice touch, especially when you realize that they all have their own unique behavior. Some run from you, some are aggressive and try to fight you, and others simply mind their own business until you bother them. This leads to the combat. It's simple RPG turn-based combat, and monsters have moves and moves have types, so you want to play to exploit those monsters' weaknesses. There's a bit of a twist with the synergy system and crown moves. This is a gauge that gains percentage when you act or are acted upon. When you have enough synergy gauge, you can use some of that to empower any of your moves, making them crown moves, which usually makes them stronger in some way or slightly changes their effect. The system is interesting, but I would argue it's not game defining. I have bred monsters to take advantage of the system, so I don't have to worry about building up gauge, but you can also ignore the system altogether and you'll be just fine, making it feel like more of a tacked on element rather than an intentional mechanic. Alright, so I know this has been a lot, so let me try to summarize who this game is for at its $25 price tag. It's for those old school Pokemon fans that want something that takes them on a nostalgic monster taming journey. It's for people who don't care much about difficulty and simply want to exist and enjoy the world. It's for people who like to interact with systems like breeding and fusion, but don't get it twisted. It's not for the player that wants these systems to be emphasized by the game. If you need a game to push you to interact with systems or hold your hand through the story, this is not it. Your motivation for interacting with the world needs to be intrinsic with this game. If you need a goal to spur you on, this ain't it. I enjoyed it, but I liked playing simply for the love of the game. People also might like the multiple ending for the replayability. That's never been my thing personally, especially in a title where using a different team doesn't feel like a different team. It's not something where the payoff is through overcoming an obstacle or finding something rare. The payoff is in the world itself. It's the ability to have a new experience in a land that in many ways can seem familiar if you were gaming back in the 90s. This game's value proposition is that feeling. That's something the game does well, even if it is a mess balance issue-wise. If you made it this far in the video, a like and a sub would be very much so appreciated. I'm trying to grow the channel right now and every little bit helps. And hit that notification bell so you don't miss my next upload. I stream on Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, so stop by and say hi. And guys, I'll be back later in another video. Peace out. And a special thanks to all our members for supporting the channel. You guys are what allows me to keep making these videos and doing what I love, so thank you.